Mortal Kombat has tons of ninjas. In fact, it's a common joke to make fun of how many there are. You got blue scorpion, purple scorpion, pink katana, and you get the idea. But today, I wanted to cover the most interesting ninja by far, or rather, the most mysterious. So today's video is all about the Black Ninja. No, not that one. Also, I don't think she's technically black since, well, she's from a different planet. But that's beside the point because I was being literal, as in black clothing. Yep, there we go. Before the NetherRealm reboot, Noob Saibot was by far the most interesting ninja, and that's because the developers kept him mysterious on purpose. For example, he shows up from seemingly nowhere, kills Goro off screen, then goes into the NetherRealm on purpose for an unknown reason. Yeah, the writers were very careful to never reveal too much about Noob Saibot, which made him extremely cool, and I love how players had to go out of their way to learn about him. For crying out loud, you had to play the Game Boy version of Deadly Alliance to learn he killed Goro. Yeah, if you were wondering where's my Shokan Prince at, well now you know, but you had to play that exact version of the game to learn what Noob Saibot did. But be careful not to dig too deep for information or you'll end up like Sub-Zero, his brother. Yeah, Noob Saibot likes his privacy, which would be a fantastic segue for a VPN sponsor. I don't have one though. Wow, look at that, True Underdog made an intro without begging for likes and subscribers. That's because I'm doing it right now. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed today's video, watch it first and then see if you like it. But my goal is to reach for 2,000 likes because Noob Saibot deserves it. Then for anyone watching who might be new, I'm trying to reach 500,000 subscribers before 2026, so let's do it together. So alright everyone, let's begin. Starting off with Noob Saibot's name. It's actually the two creators of Mortal Kombat backwards. That's right, Mortal Kombat was co-created by John Tobias and Ed Boon. So if you take their last names and spell it backwards, you get Noob Saibot. Like mentioned earlier, everything about Noob Saibot in the early games was interesting. The NetherRealm reboot kinda messed him up, but to be fair, MK1 Noob Saibot is kind of interesting in his own right, mostly because what the hell are those hand things, and why can't I use them during gameplay? At least make it a fatality or something, come on! Also, what is that hand thing he sacrifices to get a power-up? What's the deal with that? What's going on with all the hands, Mr. Saibot? I digress. MK1 Noob Saibot was cool. MK9 though was a terrible jobber who did almost nothing. And honestly, so is MK11 Noob. He looked cool and had great gameplay and attacks, but story-wise he was so lame. Which was not the case for original Saibot. This guy was really cool and special. Please allow me to explain why, beginning with his first appearance. Similar to Reptile, Jade, and Smoke, Noob Saibot made his debut as a secret fight in the arcade ladder, which meant you couldn't play as him, only fight against him. So already that's interesting because you're wondering what's this guy's story? Why is he a shadow man? As the player, your mind is left to wonder what's going on with this guy, and for a quick fun fact, he's actually not a ninja. That's Kano's silhouette, because during his debut, there were no ninja characters. Mainly because the developers were going through a lawsuit situation and couldn't use the ninja characters at the time, so instead they used Kano, which I've always considered a cool fact. The first Noob Saibot is technically Kano's silhouette, I love that. But yeah, it wasn't until WaveNet that Noob Saibot finally became playable, but here's the thing with WaveNet, there was only 2 arcade cabinets in the entire world and only in one location, so unless you lived nearby, you had a 0% chance of playing Noob Saibot. Which is unfortunate, but also adds to the mystery of the character because 99% of players worldwide had no way to play this guy and therefore knew even less about him. Now thankfully, the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection has Noob Saibot on WaveNet, and now everybody can play it, right? Because it includes all those old classic arcade games. Well, unless you're like me and ordered the physical copy. I'm still waiting on the game. Regardless, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was the first time we could all play with Noob Saibot because that arcade cabinet was everywhere. And also, this game was the first time Noob Saibot got a story, and it's interesting. Turns out Noob Saibot works for the NetherRealm's leaders. That's right, he's not serving Shao Kahn like most villains, and certainly he's not working for the good guys, right? No, no, no. Instead, he's working for a mysterious third faction. Keep in mind at this point, the NetherRealm had not been discussed pretty much at all. We knew that Scorpion came from there, maybe, but that's about it. So thanks to Noob Saibot, we now know a lot more. The NetherRealm has leaders, and they have a mission they're sending Noob Saibot to accomplish, which isn't much, but it's a start. There was no Quan Chi yet, and Shinnok gets mentioned, but we've never seen him. That's right, it's just a name drop for now, and Noob Saibot is how we first learn about Shinnok. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Midway really knew what they were doing here, because they took the most mysterious character and used him to introduce new characters, which created even more mystery and intrigue. But this next part is arguably more crazy. Noob Saibot reappears in Mortal Kombat 4. However, he's got no story whatsoever, unlike every other character. Yup, he's a secret character who requires a code during character select to even use. But unlike everyone else, he doesn't get a plot summary at the start. Nope, it's just straight into the gameplay. Now thankfully he's got his own moveset and all that, so that's good. However, if you do manage to beat the entire arcade ladder with him, you get nothing. Yeah, no arcade ending whatsoever, it's just straight to the credits. Which on the one hand feels lazy to most, I understand that, because I can't imagine being at the arcade, you learn the secret code to use Noob Saibot, then losing who knows how many quarters to beat arcade ladder, and then you get nothing. Yeah, I'd feel pretty ripped off. However, at the same time, it just adds more mystery to Noob Saibot, because players are forced to speculate what the heck this guy is doing in the background. Keep in mind, Mortal Kombat 3 implies he serves Shinnok, and yet he does nothing to help with the invasion, which gave me a fun headcanon, which might not be true at all, but I think it's a fun theory. What if Noob Saibot helped Shinnok to a point, but then dipped on purpose because he knew Shinnok was gonna lose, and now the Netherrealm is wide open for him to rule? What if that was his plan all along? It makes you think, right? And because he gets no explanation or story in Mortal Kombat 4 itself, it allows fans like you and me to speculate about all this stuff. We're free to let our minds wonder, which I think is really cool. Years later, Noob Saibot would reappear in Deception and teams up with Smoke to make a sub-boss character called Noob Smoke. That's right, unlike every other character in the game, you can swap in and out between two different fighters for the price of one. In other words, you pick one character but get control of both, right? You swap them in and out. Even their throws are different, which is cool. Also, the character was overpowered in many ways. His combos were cheap and his throw was an infinite. Not even joking, his throw just won the round. Which is obviously very cheap, but that's beside the point. We'd never had a sub-boss like this before, two characters in one. Noob Smoke was the first time. So that's just one more reason Noob Saibot is the coolest and most mysterious character in Mortal Kombat. As the player, you're wondering what the heck's going on. He's teamed up with this cyborg Smoke, and what's the deal with that? You want to dig into the story to learn more. Noob Saibot continues to be mysterious and interesting. Then in the arcade ending, he kills Sub-Zero for following him too close in the Netherrealm. That's right, maybe Sub-Zero skipped on his ninja training a bit, but he got too close to Noob Saibot and was killed for it. He wanted to know, just like us, what the heck Noob Saibot was doing in the Netherrealm, and he got deaded for it, which is already crazy. But next came the revelation that this is the original Sub-Zero. That's right, we finally learned the truth. The first Sub-Zero is Noob Saibot this whole time. Pretty crazy. Also, he just killed his brother. Even crazier, right? We've always known there was two Sub-Zeros because we played the original in the first game, but he dies and was gone forever. Except no, he wasn't. He's Noob Saibot, right? So we've played him in a few games already. Yeah, Mortal Kombat Deception was peak in so many ways, but revealing secrets about Noob Saibot is a big plus for me. That new information definitely made the game even cooler. But finally, we have Mortal Kombat Armageddon, the final game of the series, or at least that was the original idea. If you beat the arcade ladder, you get a what-if scenario for the character, as in what happens if they consume Blaze's power. And for most characters, it's conquering the world, or saving humanity, or gaining untold power, all that kind of stuff, right? But not Noob Saibot. He does none of that. Instead, get this, he has an inner battle with himself and basically evolves into a brand new being. What? Are we serious? That's so cool and interesting. Are you serious, Midway? Noob Saibot is the only character in Armageddon whose ending is not about what he does, it's about what he becomes. Which is actually still a mystery. All we know is he became a new being. Noob Saibot and Bihan fought to get dominance and instead merged into a new personality entirely. How cool is that? As the player, you're left wondering, what's this guy gonna do next? What are his plans for the future? We don't know. Which is wild because it's the final game. This is the end of the story. We're left not knowing what Noob Saibot's gonna do. Nah, man, developers were both geniuses and trolls at the same time for doing this. They gave us the most open ending possible for Noob Saibot, who, like mentioned earlier, is the most mysterious character in Mortal Kombat history. At least until the reboots, right? Mortal Kombat 9 made him this boring jobber. We knew his origin and everything he was doing. Then Mortal Kombat 11 was more or less the same. He's working for somebody but keeps failing because he's a jobber. It wasn't until Mortal Kombat 1 when the character got some interesting aspects again. For one thing, he wins fights, which is a start, and his powers have this mysterious origin. Again, the creepy hand things that pull Havoc apart, what's the deal with that? You know what I mean? There is some mystery to this character, but not to the extent of the arcade era. That Noob Saibot is always going to be the best. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, helps the channel out a ton. Let's try and get 2,000 likes for Noob Saibot. Then for anyone new, finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.